Hello. A quick channel update. Alright, I'm just gonna go live for a little bit. Channel update and a book reading. Alright, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. How are you today, guys? Happy Monday. Just wanted to get in a quick channel update, and I'm going to continue reading. I'm doing a book reading. The Warehouse, a visual primer on mass incarceration. I think this is part 5 or part 6. I'll be uploading to my YouTube channel in parts, but I've gone live if you want to check out the live versions on that one. Very good read. But just a quick channel update, guys. I'm going to Chicago, taking a short vacation Wednesday through Sunday. I'll be back Sunday. So no streams for a few days. And I'm going to be seeing 2 Chicago Cubs games. I'm a diehard Cubs fan. Super excited. I'm going to try and hit up a museum or two. Definitely some restaurants. I'm looking forward to like deep dish pizza, Italian food, and whatnot. I always like visiting the retro game stores, thrift stores, bookstores. So I'll definitely add some of those to the list. Let me turn up my mic volume there. And gaming, I haven't been streaming too many games because I've been in a gaming rut, guys. I started Neo for PS4, and I did like 8 streams or so, but I don't have the mental fortitude as I used to. I don't know. It's like a Dark Souls type of game, so you really got to focus. There's this boss I can't beat, and I'm just not in the mood to go level up. And yeah, just fail a bunch of times and run back to the boss. It's pretty gaming run, and I got 2 Dreamcast games, Red Dog, Deep Fighter. I did a quick 10-minute stream on this, by the way. Got 2 PS2 games, Urban Reign, Resident Evil Dead Aim. And I went to go get Blue Stinger, a survival horror game for Dreamcast. I hooked up my Dreamcast, and it powers on. It looks good, but then I put the disc in, and it doesn't boot up. And the disc is just scratched, and it won't play. So I was pretty pissed, and then I got a Dreamcast emulator, but I don't even know how to use that. I tried one and booted it up, and I don't know how to use it at all. I don't get emulation, dude. I'm more of a physical media guy myself. So that was frustrating, but I will say I drunkenly bought. John Carpenter worked on a new video game. It's called Toxic Person Shooter Zombies, and 10 or so years ago, I was kind of on that I was on that whatchamacallit zombie kick on like Black Ops, so I stopped playing those Left 4 Dead and whatnot. But I'm excited to try. I played the demo. I really liked the sessions I played, a couple sessions, and then for $40, I drunkenly bought it at like 1 a.m. Because I promised myself, let me play what's on my backlog. Don't buy new games. Save your money, etc. But I'm an idiot. So I think that one looks like an easy play, guys. So I think I might try and get a stream into that later tonight and tomorrow before I go on vacation. Osiris says in the chat, he says he can help with the emulator. That'll be pretty sweet, dude. Yeah, any ideas on a Dreamcast emulator, let me know. I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't know what a ROM is. I don't know what ISOs are. No freaking clue. For vacation, I'm going to pack my portable DVD player, and I'm going to rent a couple movies from my local video rental store. We love video. Take that on the flight, and I got a new book in the mail. It's from a Palestinian author named Lilas Taha, Taha. And I read her book Bitter Almonds last year, and I really liked it, and this is her new release. I paid extra for faster shipping because I knew I wanted it before my flight Wednesday. And those bitches on Saturday said, "Oh, It's off for delivery, but then it said return to addressee or something, return to center. So today I woke up, I did one job on my route, and I got to the postal office as soon as they opened, and whatchamacallit, I got there like at 9 a.m., and I got into it with the guy. I'm like, look, dude, that's who I wrote it to. Look at this receipt. Look at my ID. I know I moved recently, and like I'm not like this address isn't in my name, but that's what I wrote. It says like, just fucking deliver it to that box, dude. Luckily, they didn't send it back to sender, um, and it was just sitting in the warehouse, so I was able to grab it in person today, so I avoided disaster. So got a fictional book to read. I'm going to be renting some movies, some physical media to take on my Chicago trip Wednesday, so I'm excited about that. And I'm hoping to get out of my gaming rut, guys, because I will say one game is Absalom, the new indie beat 'em up, fairly new. That's one game I have been replaying on the side. I can't. It's becoming an all-time favorite. It's from the developers of Streets of Rage 4. Highly recommend it, guys. Highly recommend. So that's one of the only few things that can get me out of a rut right now. But definitely don't wanna. I need to play new games. So yeah, I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. Working on it. Hey, Freddie, thanks for the likes in the TikTok chat. Yeah, Absalom is a beat 'em up. Absalom from side scroller. It's a rogue like too. So definitely if you like Streets of Rage 4, dude, get it. I love Absalom so much. You saw me playing it, Freddy. It's pretty sweet. So in Freddy, I purchased Toxic Commando. It's John Carpenter, the horror director, worked on it. It's a first-person shooter, zombies, man. So try the demo. It's free on Steam. It's on PS5 too, I think. Check that out, man. Cause I broke down and bought it. It's $40 right now. Dude, Absalom's so good. You like fighting games, right? Check out Absalom, man. Absalom above anything else right now. Yeah, Toxic Commando. Try the demo, bro. If you're in for a zombie first-person shooter, which I haven't played in a long time. I'm a sucker for those games. All right. So there's your little update. I'll talk movies another time. I really haven't been watching too much. I'm on a courtroom drama kick. I watched The Client last night. It was kind of doo-doo. But all right, guys. Let's get in a quick book reading stream. I've been reading The Warehouse, a visual primer on mass incarceration. We left off on the chapter of women's prisons. And then we're going to talk about being pregnant in prison, being LGBTQ in prison. And before this, we talked about the elderly and adjusting to life on the outside, the ankles, probation, parole type stuff. So if you guys are new, I like talking about capitalism. I like talking about imperialism. I like talking about what our oppressors are doing to us. So, what you guys know. I like to talk video games, play video games, stream them, talk movies, review them. But this is my passion. So I know my name is Gamed Out Film, and a lot of folks are confused. Why are you talking about mass incarceration? But this is kind of, I like to have fun, stay informed. That's my motto for my channel. So I'm gonna start. I think this is part 5, part 6 of The Warehouse, visual primer, mass incarceration. We're on page 112. The chapter is about women's prisons right now, and let's talk about. It's kind of a bullet point. It's about menstruation in prison. I know it's a little gross, but let's just talk. Let's just go where we left off last time. So, page 112 of The Warehouse. Menstrual supplies in prison are frequently inaccessible, of poor quality and withheld as a form of oppression and degradation. Because of the lack of supply as well as the poor quality of the pads, people often reuse pads past the point of medical safety or efficacy. In one jail in Michigan, people were regularly denied access to the products and were forced to rewear bloodied clothing for up to a full week. In one case, prison staff ordered 30 people to share a pack of 12 pads. The menstrual products for sale in prison commissaries are unaffordable for most incarcerated people. For example, while incarcerated people in Florida earn, on average, less than 50 cents every hour, tampons cost $4 for 4 tampons. In Colorado, a box of tampons can cost about 2 weeks of wages. Most facilities require incarcerated people to ask the correctional officers for menstrual supplies, resulting in an immense power imbalance. In Rikers Island Jail, a prisoner reported that a guard once threw a bag of tampons into the air and watched as many inmates them because they did not know when they would next be able to get tampons. Investigation into the Julia Tutwiler prison for women reported that correctional staff regularly withheld menstrual supplies, stated that prisoners are compelled to submit to unlawful sexual advances to either obtain necessities such as feminine hygiene products and laundry service or to avoid punishment. Next bullet point, giving birth in prison. Tacy Baldwin gave birth to her daughter, Elaine, while she was in prison. According to prison policy, a mother could only keep her baby for 24 hours before it would be taken away. Quote, "My perfect baby was born on June 25th, 1998, after 72 hours of labor. Then they took me to a room on another floor. The guards were sitting next to my bed, but they hadn't cuffed me yet. And then the nurse brought my baby back. The nurse had taken a few snapshots, and she gave them to me. I was so happy I had the pictures. I knew I couldn't take my baby with me, so it was the best I could have. The nurse took the baby while I went to get searched. After that, she gave her back to me. By then, I was sobbing and begging the guards, please give me another minute. But they kept saying, we have to leave, Baldwin. I took a breath and gave the baby back to the nurse. For all I'd been through, leaving my baby at the hospital was the most painful thing I had felt in my life. When I got in the van, one of the guards had to sit in the back with me for 19 years. Looks like my stream might be reconnecting. Quote, we don't stop being a mother just because we are incarcerated, but our families are not educated or made aware of the importance of keeping a mother close to the family. You've got to keep that relationship going. Close quote. Sharing baby pictures. The documentary Tutwiler explores the journey of giving birth in Alabama's Tutwiler prison. Incarcerated mothers share pictures of their babies who were born in prison. They are only allowed 24 hours with the babies after giving birth. That's what I recently said. Sorry about that. Here he goes. Looks like my stream is cutting out. Jesus, dude, my internet's so bad. So this is being LGBTQ in prison. People who self-identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or other gender non-conforming identities are often ignored in analysis of prison populations. Unbelievably, the most recent survey of this population took place in 2012. The survey concluded that 1 in 3 people in women's prisons identify as LGBTQ. In men's prisons, 1 in 20 people identify as LGBTQ. Nearly half of all black trans people have experienced incarceration. Several factors contribute to the criminalization of LGBTQ people, including police bias, anti-trans laws, anti-LGBTQ attitudes, the failure of schools to offer safe space for LGBTQ students, and discrimination in setting bail. Some activists label these practices as a, quote, discrimination to incarceration pipeline, close quote, that channels LGBTQ people into disproportionate levels of imprisonment, particularly among youth. 20% of those in the juvenile legal system are LGBTQ. Many facilities respond to harassment and assault of LGBTQ people by placing those who have been harmed in solitary confinement, allegedly for their protection, but usually to the great detriment of their mental health. Transgender people often require special hormone therapy or gender affirming surgery. However, to receive these therapies requires an examination, which is usually denied. A survey by Black and Pink, an abolitionist organization that provides service and support to incarcerated LGBTQ folks, found that only 1 in 5 incarcerated LGBTQ people had access to underwear and cosmetics that matched their gender identity. In 2013, Cece McDonald, a Black transgender woman, killed a man who was harassing and threatening her and her friends outside a bar in Minneapolis. Originally charged with manslaughter, authorities reduced the charges to second-degree manslaughter. McDonald pled guilty and served 19 months in a men's prison. Upon her release, she became a high-profile activist, campaigning for the rights of transgender people and for reforms of the criminal legal system, including the right of an incarcerated person to define their gender. A quote from Cece McDonald. Quote, "They wanted to force me to be someone that I wasn't. They wanted me to delegitimate myself as a trans woman, and I was not taking that. As a proud Black trans woman, I was not going to allow the system to delegitimize, hypersexualize, and take my identity away from me." Here's Cece McDonald right there. Next bullet point. Life as a trans person in prison is difficult and often traumatic. The high incarceration rate of transgender people is directly related to the criminalization of survival activities. According to the Black and Pink survey, 1 in 5 transgender people had participated in the underground economy, including sex work and drug sales. 9 out of 10 of those who did sex work reported high levels of police harassment, sexual assault, or mistreatment by the police. Encounters with the police frequently led to conflict over gender identity, a conflict that persisted inside the prison. About 1 in 10 trans people experience sexual assault from staff. Almost a quarter of those reported sexual assault occurring 8 times or more. Nearly 1 in 5 trans people who are incarcerated had experienced physical assault from staff 8 or more times in the past year. We got extra bullet in the YouTube chat. Hello, sir. Welcome in. Other individuals among the incarcerated population also carried out verbal and sexual assaults against transgender people. Trans folks were 9 to 10 times more likely to experience sexual assault from other incarcerated individuals than the general population in the facility. Transgender people in immigration detention facilities experience similar rates of assault by staff and other incarcerated individuals, with 23% having survived sexual or physical assault while being locked up. About 1 in 20 people in prison identify as trans. Only 15 out of 4,890 transgender people in prison were assigned their lived gender rather than the gender assigned at birth. Trans people or individuals who identify as non-binary are often placed in an institution that corresponds to their assigned gender at birth rather than their chosen gender identity. Here's a illustration. Daisy Meadows was given 60 days of solitary for stuffing her bra with socks. Daisy Meadows is a 27-year-old trans woman incarcerated at Lovelock Correctional Center. There's just a little illustration there. Continuing bullet points. Roughly 1/3 of those incarcerated in prisons of any type were denied access to prescribed hormone therapy. 85% of transgender people in all prisons have been placed in solitary confinement. Of those, nearly half had spent more than 2 years in isolation. 70% of those surveyed by Black and Pink reported experiencing emotional pain from hiding their sexuality during their incarceration. Page 120. Disability and prison. People in prison are 3 times more likely than people outside of prison to have at least one disability. People categorized as disabled are disproportionately incarcerated. For example, nearly 4 in 10 state prisoners and 3 in 10 federal prisoners reported having a disability. 50% of female state prisoners and 39% of male state prisoners reported having a disability. The Bureau of Justice Statistics reported that fully 1 in 5 people in prison have a serious mental illness. The high rate of incarceration of people with disabilities is largely a result of the closure of facilities that previously housed people with mental health issues. In 1955, state mental health institutions held 559,000 people in the U.S., roughly the same population as prisons. By 2000, it had fallen to less than 100,000, about 7% of the prison population at that time. These problems are particularly evident in jails, which typically have even fewer services than prisons. According to research by the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, quote, jails have become the default case management system for repeat, low-level offenders who are often houseless, often have substance abuse disorders, and often have mental health issues, traumatic brain injuries, or other chronic health issues, close quote. People with disabilities are subject to greater abuse and mistreatment in prison. A report by the Center for American Progress noted that in 4 out of 12 of the California prisons studied, 84 to 94% of all incidents of state use of force were directed towards inmates with cognitive disabilities. In Colorado, individuals with cognitive disabilities were 10 times more likely to have the state use force against them than those without. Incarcerated individuals with cognitive disabilities also experience a higher prevalence of sexual assault. And the impact of incarceration on mental health can be long-term. As a team of psychiatrists from the University of Pennsylvania concluded, quote, incarceration is related to subsequent mood disorders relating to feeling down, including major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, and dysmethia. These disorders, in turn, are strongly related to disability, more strongly than substance abuse disorders and impulse control disorders. A quote from Harold Bonner, who is a wheelchair user incarcerated in New York, quote, once I saw I couldn't get a pusher, I gave up. If I want to go to rec to play chess, I might have to go to the restroom. It's mind-wrecking when I can't go. I have to urinate or whatever on myself, and I'm tired of that, so I just stay in because I can't get nobody to stay with me or assist me, close quote. It has a little illustration there. Wheelchair. Okay. Next bullet point. People with disabilities are denied accommodations in prison and jail. Many prisons implement the dehumanizing practice of placing people with disabilities in solitary confinement simply because they have no idea what to do with them. Number 1, lack of screening, academic accommodations, or social accommodations for people with cognitive disabilities or who are neurodivergent. The lack of screening or up-to-date screening of people arriving in prison with cognitive disabilities means that many people, especially people of color, go undiagnosed and therefore do not receive the accommodations they need. Furthermore, there is a lack of social or academic accommodations for neurodivergent people, which often leads to social exploitation, higher rates of sexual abuse, much higher rates of violence from prison guards, and a lack of access to programs that could reduce their time. This is painfully represented in the education requirements for release or parole. 25% of state prisoners reported a cognitive disability. 12% reported an ambulatory disability. 12% reported a vision disability. 10% reported a hearing disability. It has big bullet points there. Number 2, lack of wheelchairs or wheelchair accessibility, crutches, walkers, or canes. The lack of wheelchairs or wheelchair accessibility for people who are wheelchair dependent is inhumane. Robert Dinkins reported that when he was in solitary confinement, his wheelchair was confiscated, forcing him to crawl around on the ground. Number 3, lack of hearing aids, video phones, or sign language interpreters. Prisons often lack video phones, which are the most commonly used technology for deaf people to call each other. The existing technology in prisons tends to be either broken or unusable, leaving deaf people cut off from their family and friends. The lack of availability of hearing aids or sign language interpreters who are hard of hearing or deaf can become extremely isolated and unable to access programs. And sometimes they are even punished for their inability to obey orders they cannot hear. A quote from Rebecca Wallace. Quote, mass incarceration of people with disabilities is unjust, unethical, and cruel. But it is also penny wise and pound foolish, as community-based treatment and prevention services cost far less than housing an individual behind bars. Close quote. Page 124. Youth Justice. In 1995, nearly In 1995, after nearly 2 decades of mass incarceration, the U.S. reached its peak level of juvenile incarceration, with more than 380,000 people under the age of 18 locked up. This was intensified by the policy of most states to try many juveniles as adults. This practice began in Florida in 1978, but spread to all states in the 1990s. The increase in the arrests of youth was also related to the increasing presence of police, titled as school resource officers, on high school campuses, especially in schools with a high pressure of black and brown students. Many people labeled the funneling of youth into incarceration as the school to prison pipeline. By the mid-1990s, a shift in consciousness occurred, and the majority of states began to roll back the prosecution of juveniles. Many states closed state youth prisons. As a result, the incarcerated youth population fell by 70% from 1995 to 2019. But this did not eradicate all the problems with the juvenile justice system. Racial disparity remained, with black youth more than 4 times as likely to be jailed as white youth, and indigenous youth about 3 times as likely. Furthermore, in some places, youth incarceration was ridden with scandals. In one of the most infamous, the 2003 to 2008 Cashford Kids case in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, 2 judges received thousands of dollars from for-profit youth jails for sentencing youth to those institutions. The 2 judges, Michael Conahan and Mark Ciavarella, were charged and found guilty. Cochran got a 17-year sentence, and Ciavarella received 28 years. What juvenile detention looks like. For the most part, juvenile sentences average much shorter than those of adults. 2/3 of youth are held between 1 and 6 months, and about a quarter are held for 6 to 12 months. Crucially, about 1 in 10 youth are held in adult jails and prisons, which puts them at risk. It also means they often cannot access the services they need. 1 in 5 kids in juvenile prisons and jails have not been found guilty or delinquent and are awaiting trial. Let's take a artwork by S., a youth incarcerated in Montana. You may feel anger and pain, but remember, it will end for you. Just keep your head up and stay strong. That's what he says. That's what he wrote there. Yeah, that's a really sad. Jeez, this is hard to. Marginalized populations are disproportionately targeted. In 2015, 1 in 5 detailed youth were LGBTQ, meaning that LGBTQ youth were twice as likely to be detained. In detention centers and correctional settings, LGBTQ youth are also being sexually assaulted at a rate of 7 times higher than straight youth. Furthermore, youth of color are more likely to be detained for trial or adjudication than white youth, which can drastically affect their sentencing outcome. Honey bunning. Corrections officers at the Miami-Dade Regional Juvenile Detention Center bribed incarcerated juveniles with honey buns and other food to savagely assault each other. There's an illustration there. All right, guys, I need to take a break. This is a kind of it's hard to read sometimes. All right, so that was another part of The Warehouse, a visual primer on mass incarceration. I'm going to try and play John Carpenter's Toxic Commando on stream later. I got to take care of some things. I'm going to watch some Cubs baseball and do house chores.